Our next artist is Monica Moore, and she's going to be here at Moundville doing twining. Twining has to do with using natural materials like reeds and grasses and different things like that to make rope, baskets, and also clothing. So it goes back, twining goes back thousands of years. And so with Monica, she's going to demonstrate on how that was done, tell you a little bit about the history, and I think you'll enjoy it. You'll learn a lot from that, and maybe when she's finished, you might want to start doing some twining yourself.
My name is Monica Newman Moore, and I'm a living historian. I portray a Creek Indian woman, and I do textiles that the Native Americans used to do, not only the Creek, but many of them. There's a type of twining that I do, and it's over 9,000 years old. But before you can weave and do twining on something, first you have to go find something in nature to weave with. Some of my favorite are dogbane. Dogbane is this very reddish plant that grows, and you take it and quarter it, and what you'll see is that it has a outer bark, then there's the fiber, and then there's this inner woody part. And you break off the inner woody part to get the fiber. So then once you get the fiber, you can take it as easy as just starting it, twisting it. And what you're going to do is you're going to apply it. And you're going to spin in one direction, and then you're going to spin in another. And then you're going to spin in one direction, and then another. One direction, and another. And what this is doing is, even in modern days, you'll see people, when they make yarn from spinning on a spinning wheel, they are spinning it in one direction, which is what I'm doing here. And then they go back and they take two spools and spin them in the opposite direction. And what that makes it do is it hugs itself, which gives you a string in order to make something with. So you're just going to keep doing that. And what it does is it starts spiraling. So what you're doing is you're twisting, so you're twining and you're applying to make cordage. Here I have in this basket some cordage I've been working on. So this is just processed dogbane, which is what this is. This is a darker color, it's in different colors. And what I do here is, since I have one started, if one side starts getting shallow or thin, I'll just lay new and then twist that. So this is twisting all of these to combine them to make them one. And then I'm twisting it to do the plying. So again, I'm twisting and plying, twisting and plying. And so it makes a spiral, just like any rope that you see today. And so imagine if you need a bowstring, you'll need to make cordage. If you need to weave a net, guys, you'd have to do a lot of dogbane or a lot of cordage in order to make enough material that you can use. Now, dogbane is not the only kind of plant that gives us fiber. One of the other ones that I really love, imagine this being very, very dark green. It comes from a plant, and there's a crown, and then these come out of that crown. It's called Yucca filamentosus. And when you take this, you cut it, and when it's still green, you start scraping at it. And here I've scraped just a little bit, and you can start seeing the fibers in it. So I've done enough fibers. You just keep scraping the green off until you have nice fibers to weave, to make cordage with. And I made this small on purpose to show that you don't have to do a big bundle of fiber in order to make your cord. So this one, you know, I'm using a lot fewer pieces and twisting it to make the cordage. And again, when one side gets thin, I just lay more pieces in. So this is a lot of work for just making your cord. There are other ways that you can do it faster, but I seem to like the slower way of doing it. And I've been doing it for many years this way. So this is the yucca, which is a lot of this that I have gathered, so that whenever I want to add some more to it, I can just sit down and work on it. And this is all the materials I have and I will need. Some of the times we'll take, this sounds weird, but this is corn shucks. You can take a corn shuck and you can strip it down also, and then ply it, and then you have cordage out of corn shucks. You also can do, this is rawhide. We've taken this, it's wet, I've rolled it up so it's hard. But if you take this and we cut it to strips, you can also make cordage out of the rawhide. So it's just another type of cordage. Then you have sinew. I actually have the artificial sinew here, but sinew is also one that cordage is made out of. Here I have several groupings of it, and this one I just have two, so you see where it's smaller or larger. Now, one of the coolest things I have found in the last couple of years that people have shared with me is this cordage. This cordage is made out of, believe it or not, Spanish moss. You know, it's beautiful, it hangs from the trees, but who would have thought that you could take something that looks like this, hanging from a tree. What you do is we wrought out the inner core, and then the inner core is then twisted and made into cordage. But another thing you might not know is that Spanish moss is in the pineapple family. It has very, very small buds, little yellow buds, and it's in the pineapple family. There are early pictures with first contact with Mississippians that they are wearing Spanish moss skirts. And so Spanish moss has been here for so long, and it is used as another type of weaving. So now that we've made cordage, we can do twining. So twining is the form of finger weaving that I absolutely love. You can make things such as bags, mantles, skirts, any kind of flat piece of fabric, pretty much, you can make just by twining it. So twining, it can be easy as just hanging from a stick. And what it is you have warps that hang down and wefts go left and right. So when the warps hang down, and you're gonna take a weft, and there's two of them. And if you look, one is behind the warp and one is in front of the warp. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna twist and pull the next pair of warps. Twist and pull the next pair of warps. And what this is doing is it's just lining up the warps so they lay really flat. And then to make it complete, the weft is weaving in and out of it. So it's a simple technique, but it can make some absolutely gorgeous, different twined pieces. So this is just going to be a bag. It's going to be a short, wide bag. One of the other things that we do, this is made out of naturally dyed wool. Here in the Southeast, your most common designs and patterns are going to be diamonds, stripes, and hourglasses. And on this one, I happen to have something really cool on the end. So I'll let you think about it because I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. But doesn't it sound really cool? So we have different bags that I have made either by plant fibers or naturally dyed wools. But my pride and joy is this. This is a wraparound skirt. What I mean by wraparound is I take it and like my body would be here, I'd wrap it and then wrap this side to the other. And then I would tie this on each side and you would have a skirt. So not only does this represent a skirt, but you could also think of it just as a flat piece of material that I could wear as a covering, like a mantle, just like a shawl, like you would a shawl. If you get hot halfway during the day, you could just wear it on one side. So you could do that. You could bundle things in it if you needed to carry like a bunch of sticks. I could take this, lay it down, put my dog bane that I've gathered, and then wrap it around, and then it'd be easier to carry it, and I wouldn't lose it as I walked back to camp. So the wraparound skirt is really, really cool. I know that pieces of cloth and stuff were done like this through archaeological remains. There is a site in Titusville, Florida, and in there is a bog. And in the bog, people were wrapped in twine cloth in the fetal position. They were submerged in the water and then staked down. And then the bog is low oxygenated, low pH. And basically what it did is they just shriveled up and it preserved them. Almost like a dehydrator, but in water. And through this, there were 5 different twining techniques that were found in these pieces. And so for me, to do one big piece, it was like I was bringing back what was from so long ago back to today so people could actually see it, so that my nieces and my nephews can see what something could have been impressed in pottery. A pottery shard like this is usually how we find twined pieces. It's impressed. These are actually impressions of the pottery, and they're twined. This twining is so small that it's almost like what we call threads. This is normally how we see an impression. And there are lots of historical sites where we see impressions of twining. We get an idea of how big the fiber is that they're using, what the patterns are, which patterns they're using. But to be able to take these and make something like this, to me, it brings it to a whole new step. Because I believe if you can touch, feel, smell, see it with your own eyes, you're going to remember it. And, this is just an old piece of pottery. It's broken. It's been, it's hundreds of years old, thousands. But to see what was impressed in that and see that pattern in real life and flexible, it is, to me, it was what made it all click. It's rows and columns. And twining, to me, that's all it is. And so I can just do twining and continue it all day long. So we were discussing what was on the end of this a while ago. Growing up as a teenager, I used to come to Moundville with my mother who worked here. And with that, they had started the Native American Festival. I would sit at one of the artisans' tables. I learned how to do pottery with Patsy Hamby. I learned how to do beadwork with a lady named Beth. Every year, I learned a different skill. I even did the talks on the top of the Temple Mount. So every year, I would learn a different skill and way of the Native Americans made things. I have learned so much from all of those teachers who came. My mother was there from day one. She has been, and probably the only one that has been, to every single festival and performed or talked or shared her wealth of knowledge that she has about this park. And it shows in the love she has in this park for when she talks about it. But I took something totally different away than my mother. I took the arts back. And through that, Patsy Hamby was getting older and did not want to travel. And so she recommended me to other parts and said, you need to get Monica up here demonstrating. So that's how I got in, was pottery. Then I was at an event, and Butch Fuller's daughter, Heather, who is several years younger than me, had this frame. It was a log and 2 poles and a stick. And she was twining a bag. And I looked at that and I went, I want to do that. I talked to her. We were just into the living history where we actually dressed and lived like you would have from a different time period. So I went home and I failed completely. I was like, I cannot believe I can't do this. So I went back the next year. I said, okay, what am I doing wrong? She said, oh, you just need to do a lark's head knot and you're doing fine. Since I learned the lark's head knot, which is how I attach the string to make my warps, I haven't stopped. I've done over hundreds of bags. I have even 2 bags here in the museum. The flute player, his long bag that he has is a twine bag that I made. And then also the leader behind me, there are 4 men carrying the leader. The man at the back corner closest to the museum door, he has these on his bag too. So that's one that I've done. I've done deer toe leggings for the museum. I have in Horseshoe Bend, I have a bag that lives there. I have one in New Orleans. So I've got several bags out. So the other thing that I found with doing living history is when I heard them doing stomp dancing, they had cans on their legs. But then I found out that also people had turtle shells that had rocks that were on their legs. And I had seen documentation and heard about these, and had actually seen a pair that Doug Rogers had done for the Porch Creek Band of Indians. And this made it all come around for me. These are deer toe leggings. So the 2 toes makes the hoof. And the hoof is what we take off and make and put on our leggings. If you take this and you boil it, there's a sweet spot there where you can take right at the base of this toe and pop it off and they'll come clean. So they're hollow and everything. So we take these, and these I've actually even cut off the ends so they're not curled. And you attach them 2 at a time. And this is just a deer skin. And I have to say I've lost a toe or 2 here because there's some holes in there. But originally, each legging had 500 toes on them. The documented set from Bernard Romans is that he counted 493 toes. He said the ladies put something on their legs like you would a stocking. So I'm thinking over your foot and up your leg. He said something hung like bells and sounded like castanets. At the end of the dance, he went home with the family that was hosting him, and the lady of the house happened to be one of the ladies that had something on her legs. He asked if he could see them, and that's when he counted 493 toes. So I did 500 on each legging. So imagine one on each leg, just like these leggings that I'm wearing. They would have been put on your leg. Pretty cool sound. He said 9 ladies had the same goodly amount. My mother just loves that term, goodly amount. But can you imagine? This right here is over 125 deer with the set I have. Can you imagine how many deer they were killing to have 9 sets? And so this is just one documentation and one beautiful sound that the Native Americans did. And some people may know this and some people may not, but the toe of the deer is the same material as your fingernails. It's the keratin. And so that's why when I put this in boiling water or warm water to soften it up, it will soften. You know, if you've gone swimming all day, your fingernails get kind of soggy. And that also happens on the deer's toes. These are dew claws. We do also use dew claws, and we'll pop those off the same. But there's also one that's kind of higher up. It's almost like a lot of dogs have this. And my dad used to tell me that it's like 5 fingers that migrated. 1 came up here, 2 just came a little further up the leg, and then 2 became the dominant 2 that they walked on. And kids always ask, what does it feel like? And it feels like I'm petting a dog. And it just has these really cool toes that make a beautiful sound. If I was not doing twining or deer toe leggings, I would have to say I feel like something's missing in my life. When I found these 2 art forms, it changed my life. And all I want to do is to share what I know so that this stays alive. I mean, these are 2 totally odd art forms that if we don't teach someone else, whether it be an older person or a younger person, it doesn't matter. If we're just teaching it, somebody else is picking it up, it's staying out there and it's staying alive. Coming to Moundville is like coming home. And I have enjoyed every year that I've ever been a part of this. But this year, it's sad because I won't be able to see the smiling faces, the teachers, the students that I've seen grow up through the years. But everybody needs to be safe, and I understand that this is how it is today and in this world. But I really hope to see everybody next year here at the Native American Festival. So from your home this year, enjoy Moundville Virtual 2020. And we hope to see you again next year.